Welcome to Camera Shake Podcast, episode 106, a podcast where we talk about anything and everything that's got anything to do with photography, videography, making photos, making videos, and anything that's got anything to do with that. Now, we're back, episode 106, and we're again not in the same room. Dun, dun, dun. Today, we're actually podcasting across countries.
Well, so this is a first, actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
isn't it?
It's a first. I mean, it's actually a first that we're like recording ourselves on Zoom as well, which we don't normally do. But in this particular case, this was really the only answer.
Yeah.
Because for a variety of reasons, I find myself in the south of Germany today. And we can go into the details of that.
Yeah. I mean, there are good reasons why, but in my opinion, there is one reason why you're there.
Well, I mean,
what is that reason, Kay?
Well, so I realized very late that my passport was about to run out. In fact, I did a job last week in Amsterdam, and in the run-up to that, you know, when I was checking in for that flight, I realized that my passport was only valid for a few more days, and so although actually, well, I mean, to be fair, I've been trying to get in touch with the German embassy for quite some time, and it's been absolutely impossible to get through to anybody there. And of course, you know, their reasons are Brexit and the pandemic, and I'm just thinking I probably sent most of their staff home or something. You know, I'm not sure whether anybody still lives there. No idea. But anyway, nobody's picking up the phone. Nobody's responding to emails there. So my only option was really to come to Germany. Really at 1 minute to midnight, and get my passport renewed here. But what that means effectively is, first of all, to jump through a whole ton of hoops, which is just mind-boggling. In terms of the paperwork I have to get together and stuff like that, and but also as from tomorrow. I'm going to be stateless for a little while until I get my, express passport, my emergency passport, basically.
Yeah.
And also what that means is I won't be able to, as from tomorrow, I won't be able to travel back to the UK until I have, travel documents. So I'm trying to sort it out right here, but I'm stuck at the moment. Yeah.
So you are Tom Hanks in the Terminal, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Does that make me Catherine Zeta-Jones?
Oh, it might do. I mean, a hairstyle, it's... Yeah. And you've got the same accent, so I guess yes.
Isn't she Welsh?
No, she is Welsh.
Mm.
Yeah. I think she is, yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Is she still married to Michael Douglas? Is that still happening, or...?
Yeah, well, husband. Yeah. Yeah, she is, I believe, yeah.
Yeah, you never know these days because, people get married and before you know it, they end up in court, slamming each other. Like, have you been following the Johnny Depp thing?
I've tried not to. It's just, she's just talking crap, isn't she? I think, as far as I can tell.
Well, I mean, it's really very difficult. I've had it, I'll be honest, I had it on in the background, like radio. Because I actually love courtroom dramas, like courtroom thrillers or whatever. And I'm quite fascinated by the whole kind of goings on in a courtroom. Although, of course, the reality is much different from the way it's normally depicted in Hollywood. But so it's really, but it's really interesting to actually see what it's actually like. I sort of find it quite intriguing to follow, the attorneys' strategies and and all that kind of stuff. So I found it quite fascinating. My wife hates the fact that I'm watching it because she just calls me a gossip, but actually
you are a bit of a gossip.
Oh, just only in that respect. I mean, it's but I don't know. I find it quite fascinating. I mean, I also find it quite fascinating that they're suing each other for these ridiculous amounts of money. He's suing her for $50 million. She's suing him back for $100 million. It's like, whoa, okay. Yeah. That's just, that is craziness. But So yeah, so it's you know, it's quite interesting. You can't escape it either because you know you turn on YouTube and it's all over the place.
Yeah,
it's
it
just,
is. Yeah,
you know.
yeah, it is. Well, you're gonna have plenty of time to keep following it while you're stateless.
Yeah, well, and who knows how long this is going to go on for? Because it all depends on how long it's going to take for this passport to show up.
So what is the like less than 5-second job you could have done to have prevented all of this happening, all this expense, all this time?
Yeah.
What could you have done?
So my advice for anybody who finds themselves in a similar situation is to learn that one lesson, and that is, you know, put the expiry date of your passport in your calendar and plan like a year ahead. You know,
Put a reminder for 1 year in advance.
Yeah, exactly.
6 months in advance, 5 months, 4 months. Cost nothing to put those in.
See, I mean, we had this conversation. I think we mentioned it last week. You know, and for me, it's like I would have never thought of doing that. I mean, I've never done it before. And then, of course, I went like, "Oh, who does that?" And you went, "I do." You know? And that just perfectly shows, you know, the basic differences. But again, as we've also mentioned, I mean, we've sort of described. I think we've talked about the differences between the both of us, you know, several times. I think on the podcast, you know, and that's actually one of the reasons why I think that we work together really rather well because you know. We just have slightly different viewpoints on the world and the universe and blah blah blah, and it seems to, you know, it's like yin and yang, two halves make a whole sort of a thing. But also, of course, our respective ways of working and being sort of rub off on each other, you know. And in this respect, I have to say, I mean, yeah, the expiry dates for my passports and my children's passports are going in my calendar from now on.
Do you know what the funny thing is? I guarantee that they haven't gone in yet.
No, because no, they haven't. No, but you know,
funny.
But I haven't got a new passport yet, so I haven't got anything to put in. But you know, as far as my youngest daughter's passport is concerned, for example, I now know that her passport's running out in 2024 because that was the original confusion. I thought my passport was running out in 2024, which turns out it didn't. But I'm now very aware that that's the case for her. So I'm going to have to, you know, in a timely fashion, do something about that, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, you know, that's the unfortunate reality of just reality.
Yeah,
sometimes.
well, that's it.
But, you know, I mean, the thing is, I mean, I'm doing everything I can to get all the paperwork together and get everything together that's required in order for me to, you know, to apply for an express passport. And I think it's mind-boggling the amount of crap you have to get hold of. Like, for instance, just to give you an example. So yesterday I traveled, you know, I flew in from London to Cologne, because I had to go to the Ministry of Justice in Bonn, which is not far from Cologne. It's the former, I guess, the former capital of Germany before the reunification, before it went all back to Berlin. But in this case, the Ministry of Justice is still in Bonn. So, which is kind of lucky for me because I have relatives that live not too far from there, so I could crash, you know, on the couch basically. But I had to basically go there in person to get like a police check type of certificate that basically just certifies that I haven't committed any crimes or murders or anything in Germany, because I need that in order to apply for this express passport. But of course, it is a little bit like the internet hasn't been invented yet here. You have to basically show up in person to get that done. And so, you know, that's what I had to do. I had to travel to Bonn, you know, and I think I've used every mode of transport other than a boat to get here. You know, cars, planes, automobiles, taxis, the whole shebang. And so, armed with that and tons of other documents that I brought over from the UK, obviously, I'm now in a position to go and speak to the local authorities tomorrow morning, first thing, and and hopefully get the process moving. And then I'm just going to have to hang tight because, of course, not only do you have to apply for a passport or an express passport in person, but you also have to pick it up in person. So I can't even fly back to the UK tomorrow. I have to literally hang tight until that thing comes through. They're saying it's 3 to 5 days. Let's hope that's true, in which case I'll be back for the weekend. But, if it takes any longer, then I'm just going to have to sit it out until
you're getting that at the end of next week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And people ask me, well, why didn't you get a British passport? And the truth is, before Brexit, and for those listeners who are listening from abroad, Brexit was basically when the UK left the European Union about 2 years ago now, roughly.
It's been going on for so long. I don't know.
So prior to Brexit, when the UK was still a part of the European Union, it really made no sense for me to have a British passport because actually it gave me no advantages, and it would have cost me a ton of money. So, because you have to do like a citizenship test course thing, and so it would have cost somewhere just short of like £1,000 basically, for no advantage whatsoever. Because of course, as an EU citizen, you can live anywhere in the EU, and it just really doesn't make any difference. So there was never a point. And then, of course, after Brexit, and this is, I think, I didn't realize that, and I think probably a lot of German citizens living in the UK probably didn't realize this either. But basically, Germany isn't really very easy on dual citizenship. So you can only have a dual citizenship with another country that's in the EU. And what that would mean for me is basically if I were to take on British citizenship, I would have to relinquish my German passport. And I really don't want to do that. So because my German passport basically gives me access to the EU. And it basically means that even if in the distant future, if I plan on retiring in sunny Italy or Spain, I can, it's not a problem. I can just live there. But if I gave up my German passport, then I would be severely restricted in that respect. And that's just, in my view, that's just not worth it, So, I'm going to hang tight. And
it's all right. We didn't want you. It's fine.
In retrospect, yes, of course, in retrospect, and with the benefit of hindsight, I should have just bit the bullet and got a British passport, all those years ago. But I didn't, because at the time it didn't make sense. So
no.
But we always know more after the fact, That's
I wouldn't overthink it too much. Yeah. Just it is what it is, and it was the right decision at the time. I mean, that's that.
Exactly. You live and you learn, and my daughter is lucky enough because she's got both passports from birth, and so she's sorted, no problem.
Yeah.
There we
go.
Might apply for a Canadian passport at some point. Just do that.
Well, if when you listen to next week's episode and it sounds similar to what it does like now, or you're watching it on YouTube and suddenly you see a Zoom call, guess where Kersten is?
Might be in Canada next week.
Yeah.
Well, I won't be able to travel there without a passport. Anyway. So especially because if it sounds like this, because because I had to travel, right? I had to pack really light because I not only did I have to fly over to Germany, but I also had to kind of jet around a lot to get all these different forms together and everything. And so I kind of thought, I'll pack the bare minimum of what I need to take. And as my wife will attest to this, I'm not a light traveler by a long shot. If I can take,
you have so much denim to take.
I know, right? I'll take everything because in my head, I need whatever eventuality presents itself, I need to be equipped to deal with it. That means all types of weather conditions. And it's going to be 30 degrees or something here in a couple of days. So, I've definitely, and I didn't pack any shorts, I think.
Well, you'll be purchasing some shorts.
And only black t-shirts, I think.
You've got black t-shirts and you're going to go buy yourself 3 pairs of denim shorts. tiny ones.
Ooh, denim shorts. Actually, that's a good idea.
That's not a good idea.
But so, in terms of actually, now, but I also knew, of course, that we were going to have to do these Zoom calls and record episodes this way. I kind of thought, well, I need to pack really light, but I need to kind of make sure that we can at least get, decent audio over. And so, luckily for us, Røde recently sent us 2 of these amazing VideoMic Go IIs, which came in super handy now, because it basically means I can plug this mic in. It's super small, super light. It takes up no space, and it wastes nothing, and it vastly improves the audio that hopefully I'll be getting, on this Zoom call. So, and since Røde were kind enough to send us 2 of those, I can see you're using one as well.
I figured, why not? Well, I was going to do our regular setup, and I thought, if you don't have to do all the setup, why the hell should I? So I thought, no, I'll just go on Zoom and do it this way instead as well. So then it just left me the question of, okay, what should I do for audio? And then I remember you mentioning that you've taken that with you. Well, this is a prime opportunity to give it a go. What's very cool about it is, now I've used it on top of my R6 previously.
Oh yeah.
Just using the like the 3.5 millimeter jack and whatnot, and went straight into the camera that way, which is nice and easy, obviously. And it sounded really good. That was from, I'll try and, if I can get something there, I will, but probably not. But at some point, we'll be able to see some of that footage and hear the audio that I produced. But that was maybe 5 feet away, something like that, and it still sounded decent. But this is actually connected via, and you might be able to see this on camera just a little, via USB as well. Straight into my MacBook and straight into Zoom, and that's what we're hearing now, both ends.
I think the great thing about it is, it's not a powered mic, so it doesn't actually require any power per se. So, or it doesn't require any battery, I should say. And what I found is it
draws all its power from the unit that's you're plugging it into.
Yeah, exactly. And when I plugged it into the MacBook, the MacBook that I'm using here is super old. It's like a 2012 MacBook Pro or something like that. It just recognized it right away. Absolutely no problem. Just plug it in. It was right in Zoom. Super
I
easy.
loaded Zoom first, and this might be a Mac OS thing that you need to do, but I couldn't get any audio from it. I couldn't even see it in Zoom. And let me see if I can even see it now. Oh, I can see it now. Okay. Yeah. It took a little while for Zoom to recognize it, but now it is showing, but it wasn't at first. So what I actually needed to do was going to system preferences, sound, and then change my input in there to the Røde, which it could see fine. And then within Zoom, you get the option of system or something like that, and it just selects system.
Did you say you had Zoom open first before you plugged it in?
Yeah.
Okay, because I did the other way around. So I plugged the mic in first and then opened Zoom, and actually it was right there.
That's interesting.
I didn't have to do any of that. So maybe that's the way you're going to do it.
Yep, that's it. But either way, I had a quick workaround, and even now I'm looking as we're talking, and it is showing up as a separate mic in Zoom. Yeah. You can also select it as your speaker output.
I wonder how that works.
I know how it works. It does work.
Does it?
Yeah. So I read this. I've not tried it, but the 3.5 millimeter jack that's on the mic is in and out.
Oh, okay.
So if you select it as a speaker out, you can connect your headphones to the mic and use that to monitor through. It'll be direct monitoring, I guess.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a cool. I mean, why no one? Maybe other people have done that before, but I've never used one that does that, and that's really handy.
What is really interesting about this mic? This is, I've really found this to be a massive, massive benefit is that, it's a mic that you can use on top of your camera. But at the same time, you can use it as a mic for Zoom or FaceTime, or anything like that, or even like record, podcasts use as an audio mic, or whatever. And you can just use it as a USB mic essentially. You can also connect to your phone, and then with the Røde app, you can then change different parameters about the mic. So it doesn't have any switches on it. You can't change any settings unless you use the app. So for instance, if you were to record a podcast, let's say straight into your phone, which is very handy. I mean, really, you can then change a lot of the settings about the mic via the software. And that makes it really quite flexible, because now you don't need an external recorder. If it's just, if you're just doing a typical podcast where it's just one person talking, for example, and that really means, all you need is your phone, and, you've got a super small, super light, really easy to use mic that you can literally take with you wherever. And that is maximum flexibility. When it comes to that. It's really great because the whole thing, it's like, I'm just looking at the specs right now. It's 150 millimeters long. So that's 15 centimeters. It's about that long, and it's, it's a typical thing. It's like a polar pattern. I think when we tried it on the R7, R6, sorry. When we tried it on the R6, did we think like, well, it sounded just as good as the original VideoMic Pro, even better?
Yeah. That we were monitoring it directly at the time when we said that. Yeah. Absolutely, it does. The shock mount's very cool on it too. Yeah. It is. You can not only can you obviously attach it to your hot shoe and whatnot. You can actually move the mic forward and back still on it too, can't you? Which is a nice little touch. Do you know where that comes in really handy? Because I tried this on my Fuji X100F, and just the fact that you have this little rail and you can move this, forward and backwards a little bit, it actually means that now, purely from a sort of haptic point of view, it allows me to get to some of the buttons on the back more easily, because I can move the mic forward. Oh, there
just
you go.
A touch. And it doesn't get into shot, because actually the whole mic's so short that it doesn't really stick out massively in front of the lens. So, there's never a danger of that happening.
Yeah.
So it's cool. There's only one disadvantage I found.
Oh.
And this is really only a personal experience. And that's the fact that it's the cold shoe mount on the mic has a 3/8 of an inch thread on it.
Yep. And
I think that's great if you want to mount it onto like mic stands and whatever else. But I found that, the little Manfrotto little, desktop table, whatever you call it, tripod that I use has a different size thread on that. So I had to use an adapter, or as I'm doing at the moment, because I'm in Germany and I forgot to take an adapter, I'm actually mounting it.
So funny.
On my Fuji. But it works. So that was like, that was a bit of a surprise. I'm like, well, I thought, surely that it should have been a different norm. But anyway, that's, that easy workarounds. And you can get little thread adapters, of course, for those things.
Yeah, it's not a big deal, is it, really?
Oh, it's not a big deal. The fact that it, that it connects to your computer via USB-C, super awesome. The fact that you can use it to direct monitor with headphones with a mini jack.
Yeah,
that's great.
Now, I have to say, I'm slightly worried, but also confident because this is the first time I've used it in this situation, and we did no testing on this at all. We drive straight in, and we are hoping for the best, but we're also very, very confident based on other use cases that we've tried it in already that it's going to sound decent. Is it going to sound as good as the mics we normally use on set? No. No, I don't think it is, and it's not supposed to. They're, £500 mics, and this is £100 USB mic.
But is it going to enhance the audio quality that you get from, let's say, a Zoom call or a FaceTime call or something, compared to the built-in mic in your laptop? Yes, it will.
There is nothing worse than hearing someone talk on Zoom through the laptop microphone.
Absolutely, yeah.
I hate it. Yeah. And for the sake of £100 and the versatility of this, there's not really any reason not to have one.
And that's the other thing, right? It's like, I think it's 99 quid.
Yeah.
Quid as in for those, for those people across the pond. It's, 99 British pounds sterling. So that's a really affordable mic. I mean, for what it is, and by the way, we're in no way sponsored by Røde at all. They did send us just for clarification. They did send us 2 of those mics, to test out and stuff. But we'll be absolutely totally honest with you. We wouldn't be praising those as much as we do if we didn't really think they're just enormous, improvement on older models, but also just the versatility of it. Being able to use it as a camera mic and as a, Zoom mic, a podcasting mic. It's great. Yeah. I mean, one mic to rule them all.
And I'll be brutally honest about the sound quality when I've got it out of here and I'm processing it when I'm putting it together. If there are issues with the sound quality, I will say equally if it sounds great on raw.
And of course, the other thing is over the next few weeks, we can expect us to run this mic through its paces, and test it in different situations. Again, what we're doing here today is we're just simply using it, as a sort of a Zoom mic, if you want, and really as a podcast mic. That's basically it.
Yeah. The other thing we've just got to remember with the sound for this is that we are recording the sound through Zoom as well, which, as we know, does degrade the sound quite considerably compared to what the original sound was. But, I knew that going into this before we sort of started up. I knew that that's what would be happening. But I really wanted to hear it in kind of a, 99% of the people who are going to use this through Zoom are not going to be recording their audio separately as well. They're going to be recording it through Zoom. So I wanted to make sure, I wanted to hear it in its, main use, if you like.
And also, just talking about that, there's one thing, because we've tried this before. Obviously, we've had many guests on the show that we've recorded via Zoom. And we've had quite a few occasions where our guests did also record their audio separately at the same time, and then the idea was, okay, why don't you send us the audio file and then we sync it up in post, and then we get a massively improved audio quality to in sync with the Zoom picture. But that didn't quite work out.
Never syncs properly. No.
Yeah, it never syncs properly. No. And so,
but you can really hear the difference in audio quality.
Big time.
Yeah, I'm not. There is a high quality audio mode in Zoom, which I think I have turned on, but
brilliant.
But it's more. I don't think it really affects your voices in that way. Yeah. I can't really remember. Either way, we're using it in its native habitat, if you like, as a USB mic.
Exactly. So again, we'll put this mic through its paces in different situations in the near future. So if you're interested, keep your eyes peeled and your ears peeled, open, whatever.
Yeah, it's peeled as well.
Yeah. So it just means you have to come back. Listen to more Camera Chef podcasts. But that's not the only thing, the only techie thing that's happened this week that I've come across that's actually provided us with vast improvements.
Actually, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, really? Well, okay. So Premiere Pro. Well, Adobe have boosted Premiere Pro massively in terms of speed. Get this. I mean, this is really Okay, so this is really interesting. I'm going to tell you about it, and then I want to get your opinion as to whether you think that A was a reason for you to switch from Premiere Pro originally, and also whether these sort of improvements may be a way to tempt you back. Okay, but let me just get right into it, and I'll tell you what this is all about. So basically, Adobe have come up with a massive speed enhancement for Premiere Pro, both on Mac and PC. I mean, I think the speed enhancement is a big thing, but there's 5 different enhancements or updates that they've really come up with. So I'll take you through it. So first of all, they've basically brought out a new hardware encoding support for macOS and for AMD CPUs. For Windows machines. And what that means, get this, that rendering is now 10 times faster export time-wise for a 10-bit 420 HEVC.
420?
Yeah.
What about 422?
That's not what I'm saying. 420 is what I'm saying. Nevertheless, 10 times faster. Okay. So, and if you are running Premiere Pro and you're wondering how you could switch that on, because that's actually a function you have to switch on.
Why?
Well, no, why? I'll tell you why. That's because that actually has to do with potentially the type of machine that you're using to render on, and whether that's set to hardware or software encoding. Or rendering, right? So you basically, all you've got to do is go to the encoding settings, and if your system supports hardware encoding,
which most do.
Yeah, which most do nowadays. Then you've got to set the profile level to main 10. So if you do that, then it'll basically all of a sudden appear 10 times faster than it was before. And I know this from, the ancient days when I used to use Premiere Pro, before I switched to Final Cut Pro, and to be honest with you, the reason why I stuck with Final Cut Pro was because the rendering times were so much faster. That is honestly one of the main reasons. Because I remember back in the old days, I mean, this goes back a while, but I remember trying to render out like videos that were relatively short, 5-6 minute videos, and it took absolutely forever. Whilst with Final Cut, I mean, you literally renders in the background or whatever, and the renderer is generally faster. You basically set the render. You go for a leak, you come back and it's done. There's no, there's virtually no delay. Anyway, so now you can enjoy 10 times faster render time with Premiere Pro, which is awesome. But they've done a number of other things as well. They've basically, so Adobe improved QuickTime screen recording, and they made smart rendering improvements to that as well. So they've basically tweaked QuickTime things. Basically, what it means is, if you're doing some screen recording on QuickTime, what it now means is that when you then take the video and you put it on your Premiere Pro timeline, it now plays back smoother, and it allows you to scrub better when it's played in Premiere Pro as well. So just obviously tweak that, which is great, because actually a lot of people who in particular make videos for YouTube will include screen recordings as part of those videos, especially if they're like tutorials or whatever. And I'll be honest with you, I've found that with QuickTime recordings in the past, and again, whenever I've used QuickTime recordings or screen recordings in Final Cut, I never used to have that problem. So this, it's just one of those things, one of those niggly things I always found in Premiere Pro. I always found weird. And I always thought it was me. Turns out it wasn't me. So Adobe's fault. Bang. They've made some other little tweaks, like for instance now, Premiere Pro will allow you to basically export GIF transparency, and the reason they're doing that now is because they just want to make it easier for people to create content for social media. So because that's the way the world's going. So little thing there. I don't understand why they didn't do that in the past, because it seems such a no-brainer. I mean, I create transparent GIFs all the time, for all sorts of different assets. And I do it in Photoshop. And it just saves you having to do that in Photoshop if you can do it in Premiere Pro. Awesome. And it's now also, it's another thing. It's now possible to distribute objects evenly on the program monitor. Again, not sure why that wasn't possible before. Seems weird, but now you can. And lastly, and this again might be helpful for those of you who obviously render a lot and maybe create proxy files when you're editing. Premiere Pro now allows you to create HDR proxies that match the original visually whilst improving performance whilst editing. So just as a super quick explanation, if you don't know what proxies are. So, when you're recording, let's say in 4K, for instance, it might be quite a draw on your machine if you're trying to basically edit everything using the original 4K file. So the preview that you see in your program monitor in your editing window, what you can do is you can basically create proxy files that are lower in resolution and smaller in size. And it just means that your editing process is, when you scroll up forwards and backwards and you cut things, it's just easier on the machine, easier on the RAM, and it makes the whole playback experience more smooth. And then when you've done your edit and you're completely done with it, you then render it out in full quality. And then, of course, the final project will be full quality. But, of course, in an ideal world, if you could edit and view stuff back in near enough full quality, that would obviously be a major advantage, because especially when it comes to color grading and all the rest of it, it's just, a massive advantage if you can actually see things in, what will be the final quality. So it takes a little bit of the guesswork out of it, I guess. And we'll talk about that side. And that's an interesting experience I've had on recently, actually, in a conversation that I had with somebody. But yeah, so 5 improvements to Adobe: faster render time, general QuickTime improvements, transparent GIFs. You can distribute objects evenly on the program monitor, and you can create HDR proxies. What do you say?
Let's think. So the GIFs transparency, I don't use. It doesn't fuss me all that much. The QuickTime screen recording, yeah, I get that. I've not actually done that and used it within DaVinci, so I don't actually know how that performs.
Right.
So that's interesting. I don't know. The smart rendering is already great. I don't know if there's any benefit there. Now for the export, let me think. So it's only H.265 that this works on.
Yeah.
No, nothing else.
So it's 10-bit 420.
Yeah, HEVC, that's 265, which is fine because that's actually what I generally export at for uploads to YouTube. But it's not. It's also not wide. I don't think it's yet widely accepted on all platforms. It might be now, but it's been a while since I've uploaded to anything other than YouTube, and that's had it for ages. It is, but client stuff I export in H.264 because I know that they're going to be able to use it anywhere they want to. So I don't think that would help in that instance. Could I still export in 265 to clients? Yeah, possibly. So that's interesting. That is interesting. I wonder what it is that they've done that's given that kind of uplift.
I think they've probably nicked some code from Final Cut. It's probably what I've done.
Well, I should have been doing that a long time ago. I wonder if, 10 times, I wonder if 10 times has just brought it up to the speed of the rest.
It probably has.
You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But there were more issues with Premiere Pro than just export times, rendering and encoding. It's very clunky to use. Nothing is particularly intuitive. Its coloring abilities is rubbish, in my opinion, which wasn't great at all. You always needed third-party plugins for that.
So let me just interject here. And so do you remember I said there's an interesting conversation I've had very recently. So and I just clarified it a little bit. So last week I went to shoot a job in Amsterdam, and Kai Zamet, who was on this podcast last year at some point, was on the same job. And so, we're just chatting, and he said, I edit everything in Premiere Pro, but I do all the color grading in DaVinci.
There you go.
And I thought that was an interesting sort of workflow. And I kind of thought I'd mention that to you because I know
that's
you're
very interesting. The color work in DaVinci is just, I've never worked on anything as good as that and as intuitive as that. Once you get over your understanding behind the principles in DaVinci as to how it works, it is superb, absolutely superb. And I'm still scratching the surface of what it's actually capable of doing, right? And the coloring in Premiere Pro, as I say, has just been awful. It's just painful. Final Cut is better than Premiere for coloring, I think. It's inbuilt tools. But even that is not anywhere, neither of them cover anywhere close to DaVinci for color. Right. But do I agree with Kai on editing within Premiere versus DaVinci at the minute? Maybe not. But then I've just got really used to editing in DaVinci now.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, in its simplest terms, DaVinci, just general editing in DaVinci feels like a hybrid between Premiere Pro and Final Cut. It feels like it's taken the best of both. Or it's tried to take the best of both.
And you can take over the shortcuts that you're used to. No matter whether you're coming from Premiere Pro or you're coming from Final Cut, you can basically set your preferences so that you use the same shortcuts. So you don't even have to relearn anything, which is a great advantage. I mean, I thought about getting into DaVinci just simply because I sort of feel maybe in the future this could make workflow things easier between the two of us.
Yeah, I think that's possibly true. The free version of DaVinci is unbelievable. It's so full featured. There are some crucial things within the paid version, like certain file formats that it will accept, certain export settings, I believe, and other little bits and pieces like that. But if you're just using it for, social media stuff, just for argument's sake, the free version's brilliant.
Which to be fair is, the video editing I do is 99.9% social media focused, for sure.
And so if we were to collaborate in that way through the same software, and they're just releasing the new collaborative cloud-based stuff as well, which is supposed to be very, very good. I've not downloaded the beta version for any of that yet. I generally don't download betas. I will wait until the full version is out because unlike Premiere Pro, now this is a really good point for Premiere Pro, is you can have every version of Premiere Pro installed on your computer at one time and just open it up whatever you want. So if something goes wrong, your previous projects can't break because you've got the previous version still installed if you want to do that. Yeah. Where DaVinci, Final Cut as well, probably, it overwrites it. you don't get the option to be able to have multiple versions.
Oh yeah, no, you don't. No, yeah. Well, I mean, that's to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, that doesn't work.
Yeah. So that's why I won't use betas, because they're potentially too buggy. And
I mean, the thing is, like,
too much commercial stuff happening.
You know, for me, I think I'll totally be up for giving DaVinci a shot. Maybe that's, you know, we could make that a feature of an episode in the near future. You know, one of the reasons why I'm sort of stuck with Final Cut is I know it really well, because I've been using it for maybe at least 8 years, something like that. You know, 6, 7, 8 years, something like that. And also, I've spent quite a lot of money on plugins.
Right. So I have a lot of thoughts on this type of thing, and coming from an audio engineering background as well, this is the type of conversation that happens all the time. Should I move from Pro Tools to Logic to Studio One to Reaper to whatever it might be? Yeah. And the answer 9 times out of 10 is no. Don't. Know what you know it really, really well. And this comes back to gear. Unless it gets to a point where that piece of software can no longer keep up with what you need to be able to do within it. Yeah. That's the only reason to start considering moving away.
Yeah, and again, you know, the only reason I'm considering giving DaVinci a shot actually is really just from a collaborative point of view.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. Because generally, again, for what I do, and you know, video editing really isn't anything I do in great depth or, you know, a great amount of, but the kind of stuff that I do, again, it's just, you know, it's very much focused on social media use, you know, whether that's, you know, short elements sometimes that I edit for the podcast, you know, occasionally I do those things. Yeah. But, you know, predominantly they would be things that are meant for stories, you know, Instagram stories, or, you know, or social media videos or whatever, something like that. And, you know, for that, Final Cut actually does a stellar job for that. And, you know, it's like anything. When you're really used to your software and you're really used to the way of working, it's just quick, you know? Yeah. It's quick. And, you know, I think much like many people, when you're confronted with having to relearn things, you know, it's sort of...
that's it. This is it. And I don't want to change anything that's going to slow down what I do, right? Unless there are massive gains for it. And for me, there were massive gains from switching from Premiere to DaVinci. After I tried out the free version for a little bit on some, they were on client projects, but not the actual client projects. They were just using the footage from it to mess around with, try things out, try to do the same thing as I'd just done on that project to see how quickly I could do it, the way you'd go about it, if I could improve it, so yada, 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 all that kind of stuff. And I fell in love with it straight away. It was just, it made so much more sense to me. I could do what I need to do. And, you know, at the same time, I started transitioning my audio software as well. Right. So rather than Studio One, which I've been using for years and years and years, I'm still hybrid. I'm still using both for different reasons. I'm moving to something called Luna, which is made by UAD, which make plugins there are a couple of reasons for it. One, I just moved to their UAD interfaces. And that's because my interface wouldn't work with the Apple M1 chips. Slate Digital, what the anyway, I'm sure there's some very good technical reasons why. Anyway,
laziness.
So I needed to buy a new interface. I thought, right, I've wanted one of these for a long time. I'm going to get one. So I moved to a couple of those. And as part of that, you get their UAD the Luna software is what it's called. And it makes me feel more creative. You know, it has all inbuilt plugins. This is all audio stuff. It's not, well, it is relevant. You're doing video work. You need to be able to do your audio work too. Because if you're doing video work and you're doing your audio within your video software, unless you're just doing a quick thing for social and stuff like that, fine. If you're not, and it's for a project, stop right now. Go and do an audio software. Get a couple of plugins that actually do the job well, and stop taxing video software to do something that it's not supposed to really do very, very well. It focuses on video, not the audio. Anyway, my little rant over.
Which incidentally is actually whenever I do anything on video, I usually send the audio to you to mix it, and you then send it back, and I re-import it, and then I decently mixed software. And this is just a really good example. I mean, in this particular instance, it doesn't really matter what system we're working on, because I just export the audio straight out of Final Cut. You mix it, send it back, and it doesn't really matter. But again, like from a collaborative point of view.
So let me just add on to the DaVinci collaborative bit. I think we may have mentioned it a couple of episodes ago, that because they were making these new updates in Resolve 18, is that if you did have that, I don't know if there's a cost associated with this. I'm not sure. There might be. But what we can do is, if we've both got the same video files, raw media, which is fine because we can just share that, no problem. And we then collaborate on a project, we can edit that project at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Awesome.
How cool is that?
That's good. Yeah.
So I can be going, you know what, I'm going to work on this timeline doing this section. You can be working on another timeline. This section is all within the same project, just done at the same time. Amazing.
Fantastic. Awesome. That's the future, man.
And then what you could do, then you can get 3 or 4 people doing that, right? If you've got a team, and you could be doing time, it does slightly depend on the project, but you can be working on different timelines and doing different sections, and all export your timelines at the same time, using all those computers to do that exporting.
Oh, great. Yeah. That's the way to do it.
You know what I mean?
So all we need to do is get
and then you can be using your MacBook, your iMac, and your MacBook to doing certain bits, and export on both for different timelines.
And I feel we need to get a couple of Mac Studios and just do that way.
Could do, yeah. I'm quite happy with my M1 Max right now. It's.
Oh, you know what?
I hate how used to it I am already, and I want it to be faster.
Oh yeah, for sure. I am super happy with my iMac, which is the last pre-M series iMac. I'm super happy with that. For my intents purposes.
Core? Was it 12 core and 10 core Intel?
12, 16. Sorry, I can't remember. I don't know the specs. Don't ask for specs.
It's good though. It's fast.
It's shiny. That's right. It's I've been thinking about this the other day actually, and the studio, it does make a lot of sense. But I only bought this thing like a year or so ago, year and a half ago, and I'm going to ride this out for a little bit longer. And
so you have a question to ask yourself: is it better to jump on the M1 bandwagon now? Yes, it's going to cost, but you're going to get your maximum return that you can possibly get on your existing iMac. You might be able to sell that for 75% of what you bought it for.
Correct.
Maybe. Yeah. Just, it's a difficult one. Or you need to keep it for many years to come.
So the thing that's holding me back actually is simply the screen. I love the screen. If there was an M...
It's 5K, isn't it?
Yeah. If there was an iMac, with a 5K screen, and what is it, 27 inches or whatever it is, of that size, then I would seriously consider it. I would totally consider it. Absolutely, 100%. Mm-hmm. At the moment, I'm loving the screen. That's the thing. And, I haven't really seen any third-party screen that I love as much.
And not 5K. The only 5K screens that are really out there are the ones that are on the iMac, the Studio Display, which they just released, Apple, and there might be one other. Yeah, that's it. They're few and far between.
Yeah, so I'm
it does make a difference.
Oh, I'm really in love with that screen. For editing for sure, but also for photo editing. And the thing for me was at the time when I switched to the iMac. The 27-inch iMac, it was for 2 reasons. One is I just found that it's so much easier on my eyes, and it's actually I used to edit a lot on the MacBook Pro that I'm sitting at right now, and I can actually see it now just doing the Zoom call, like my eyes are already feeling relatively tight, and I just don't get that strained feeling when I'm looking at the iMac Pro. So it's really, when I'm doing long edits, it's so much easier on my eyes. But the other thing also is that I just sit with better posture when I'm sitting at that screen. Yep. So I don't get that, hunched back tower thing. And I know you could just lift your MacBook up, but nobody does that. When you have a MacBook, you sit on the couch, do the editing. That's what you do. So most people do.
Honestly, I catch myself all the time. I'm at the sofa and my MacBook's on the arm. Yeah, and I'm doing
absolutely.
It like that. Watching the TV at the same time.
And I know you can get yourself like a stand and all the rest of it, but then people just say, I bet the vast majority of people don't actually do that. So, then it's like a thing like, you have an external screen and you plug the thing, you plug your MacBook Pro in, and then, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. But at that point, it's like, well, what's the point? So for me, I've just found that it just makes my life easier, and it's much, much more comfortable. And actually, it's a beautiful screen. Like when I'm looking at the edited shots, they just look gorgeous on that screen, and I just like looking at nice looking stuff. So and again, with the current iMac, it being, I can't remember, is it 24-inch or 21-inch? Not sure, but it's the smaller screen. It's the smaller screen, so they haven't really come up with the 27-inch version of that.
They will soon. I think
sure.
They might make it bigger. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's great. That's even better, And then I'm literally in the market. But
24-inch.
Yeah, but for the time being, I can see the Mac Studio. I've listened to a lot of people talk about that, and get some first-hand experiences, and that sounds really awesome. That might be an option, but for now, I'm good with that. And of course, ultimately, you got to remember, upgrading your system, it's really only worth it if it actually adds anything or it gives you anything extra. And at the moment, for the time being, personally, I am absolutely happy with
the reality for you and you're absolutely right. You've got to think about what you actually use your machine for, and think to the future a little bit too. Yeah. And the reality is that 90% of the creative work that you do is photo related, right?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, more than that.
And guess what? You have no issues editing whatever you want on that machine, right? As many raw photos as you want, with as
100%,
as many layers as you want. No worries.
Yeah, I could double the megapixel count on my camera. Which I will do at some point. But yeah, absolutely no problem. And and the thing is also, the MacBook Pro that I'm sitting on now, which is I think it's 2012 MacBook Pro. So it's old. 10 years old, that thing. It's I didn't throw it away. It was worth nothing. There was no point in selling it. But it is a glorified typewriter, and what do I use it for now is, if I want to grab my MacBook and I want to go sit in a cafe and write a blog, for example, it's perfect to use for that. Or for instance, like in this situation, I've got to travel at short notice and do a Zoom call, record a podcast, it does that trick as well. I don't really do a lot of editing on it anymore. Although that being said, now that I'm here in Germany, I have some editing work to do. So I am going to do this. But yeah, it's a major difference to, what I've grown accustomed to now. Yeah. But it still does the trick, Yeah. I've
still got a 2012 MacBook sat not 5 foot from me right now. And that's there as a complete backup. If something goes horribly wrong, I've got that. Actually, I've got a 2012 iMac.
Yeah.
5.5 foot from me too. And I'm making use of it again. Did I tell you?
No.
Yeah, I'm making use of it again. It's actually still damn fast. Yeah. It's a bit clunky to use, but it's still really fast. I've actually taken to, I'm uploading hundreds of gigabytes of data to the cloud every week.
Right.
hundreds. And I don't want to do to this machine what I did to my last MacBook. And that's, it needs to be on uploading every night. Means it's plugged in constantly.
Right.
The odd time here and there, that causes no problems. But every night, trust me, your battery's gone. It's just going to go. And I refuse to do that with this because I love this machine. So now, anything I need to upload, unless it's quick and I'm using my machine anyway, I'm just sticking on an external drive, plugging it into the iMac and just leave it running.
Yeah.
It's on mains power.
Yeah.
Now, what struck me not 2 or 3 days ago was that's now permanently on. I never turn it off now. And the cost of energy prices here has gone up 40% in the last 4 weeks. So might have to reconsider it a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a good question to ask. If you're listening to this podcast, let us know. Are you still using, old computers to, do they still have a purpose, or did you literally, did you get done with it and get rid of all the old stuff and buy an all new? That'd be really interesting to hear, because I know, some people still use super old, iPods to play music through and stuff like that.
Did you hear that they've just discontinued them?
I know, yeah, the Nano, isn't it? Or what was it?
Yeah, whatever they're using. But
I think it's probably all iPods. Yeah, interesting thing, man.
I've still got not the original generation, maybe third or fourth generation. I'm not sure what it was now, but I've still got one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, get this, the iMac, right? The 2012 iMac. I've got a Windows keyboard, like normal external keyboard, connected to it right now. And it doesn't work quite right with it. It just doesn't recognize certain things. So all I do is screen share through my MacBook and control it that way instead. It's far simpler.
Great. All right. Okay. So this is where we're going to have to cut it short today. Of course, we are in 2 different time zones as well. I'm in the future as far as time is concerned. Yeah. Ooh. So we're communicating not only through space, but also through time.
You're going to walk into a TARDIS in a minute.
Woo! Absolutely, yeah. Nobody listening in North America will know what that even meant.
Yeah. No, they get BBC out there.
Do they know about Doctor Who? Because I never knew what Doctor Who was.
Not everyone would, but people who watch BBC will know Doctor Who. Yeah. I mean, I've never watched Doctor Who either, but I know what a TARDIS is. Yeah,
so here's your homework. If you're listening to this, go and find out what Doctor Who actually is. It's weird, trust me. Anyhow, so that's it for this week. We've come to the end of this week's podcast, episode 106. We'll be back again next week, possibly in this setup, hopefully in the same room, but hard to tell at this point.
I'm actually quite enjoying this setup.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
So much less to pack down.
Oh, well, there it is. There it is. Cool. So remember, if you are listening to the audio version of this podcast, just be reminded that there is a fully fledged video version of it over on YouTube in full Technicolor. And if you so desire, you can follow us on social media. Just head over to Instagram, Camera Shake Podcast, and we're also on TikTok. And of course, we have a brand spanking new Facebook group on Facebook as well. Just again, search for Camera Shake Podcast group or something like that. We see you there. Anyway, that's it. Over and out for today, and we'll see you again next Thursday.
See you later.